In this video, I'll cover the basic operation of the D-600 thin film profiler. Turn on the PC and the scanning unit. The power switch for the scanning unit is in the back right corner. You might notice that the machine is already on and I've just turned it off. I'll demonstrate scanning of two samples, a nanometer thin layer of metal evaporated onto a glass slide, and a silicon wafer with a thicker layer of SU8 photoresist. When you start using the machine, the sample platform should be at the front of the machine. This is to prevent samples bumping into the scanning tip. Place your samples roughly in the middle of this stage. The scan direction is back to front. With the PC booted, we can launch the Alphastep D profiler software. There are 4 drive motors in the system, 3 for each axis of movement, and 1 additional one just for the scan. They all must be homed during boot up. Here you can see the scanning tip. It should be well above the level of the samples and must not be touched as it is sensitive and fragile. This dial changes the pitch of the stage and is used to manually level the scan. Clockwise will lower the front of the stage. With the machine initialized and your sample loaded, use the stage control buttons to move the area you want scanned under the tip. Before driving the stage, visually check to make sure that the tip is not going to crash into anything. This usually means increasing the Z height to its maximum value. It is possible to break the tip by driving it into the side of your sample. Once the tip is above your region of interest, lower the tip using the Z stage down button. When the tip is close to the surface, the video capture window will show a live image of the tip's approach. It is okay to land the tip on your surface. Each scan that you want to perform needs a few parameters. These are found in the bottom section under the Scan Parameters tab. Scan speed and length are self-explanatory. You should choose the step-down profile for steps over 50 microns. Scanning up a very large step can damage the tip. And choose a range that is clearly larger than your step height. Now move to the exact spot that you want to scan. Make sure the tip is up when you're moving. The scan direction is down the screen, so I'm looking for an edge of the SU8 for the tip to run off. Start the scan by pressing the Scan button in the top left of the video capture window. Now take your hands off the table and don't make any vibrations until the scan is complete. You can see a coarse indicator of the height in the bottom window. After completing the scan and returning the motors to their home positions, a new window will open with high-resolution scan data. I've edited out some time here because it takes a little while for that extra window to pop up. But when it does pop up, there's always going to be 2 cursors. Each can be moved, and each has an adjustable band that performs an average of the data within it. The data usually needs to be leveled by moving the right and M or R and M cursors so that they intersect to points at the same height. Press the Level Data button to adjust the data so that both of these points have a height of 0. Now move the cursor, or one of the cursors, to a new location and see the delta width and delta height on the right side of the screen. The units here are in angstroms, which isn't very appropriate for this sample. You can change the units. They're actually in the settings menu on the main screen there, and we can change them to microns for both the X data and the Z data. If you're scanning a thin sample, as we'll show next, angstroms are a better unit. Here we can see that this SU8 film in this location is 35.2 microns thick. Here's what this process would look like if you were watching the scanning tip. Note that I've sped this process up a bit. But the first step is to drive the stage into the machine so that it's underneath our scanning tip. And we've got to get this, we've just sort of eyeball this and look from the side and say, look, I think it's in the right position. Then we bring the tip down until it's close and we can see it on the microscope. Once it's close, then we can move it around using the video camera until we get the scan in the right position. The scan's going to take place. It doesn't move very much. It's going to drop for the scan. This is probably the scan right here. It's only going to move about 1 millimeter, and then it's going to retract. Back to the computer now. I'm going to raise the tip and move the stage so that we can scan the other sample. That's the metal film on glass. So we'll use the Z stage up to make sure that we retract that tip before we move it. And we've got 2 buttons. We can move fast and we can move slow. Again, I'm watching with my eyes on the real tip to make sure that I'm finding the area that I want to scan and that there's nothing that the tip's going to run into or anything like that. Once I think I'm above the area of interest, I'll lower the tip and I can crash it into the glass. It's okay to crash the tip in the Z direction, but I'll lift it up before I move it around and make my fine adjustments before starting the scan. I need to select some scan parameters like the speed and the length, the profile, and I'll select a range of 2.5 microns because I know this is a very thin film. When I'm in the right position and I've got my scan parameter set, I press the Start Scan button on the video capture window. Here you can see the course data showing up on that small window. Usually it's a bad thing if that red line goes beyond the bounds of that course frame. It can hit the limit of detection and you'll get a flat line on your scan, although in this case it didn't actually happen, which was a bit of a surprise, really. If it does happen, you can increase the height of your scan, so from 2.5 to 10 microns, or you can do the manual leveling of the stage using that little thumb wheel. It takes about 20 seconds after the scan is complete for the data to show up. It always feels like longer than that. We can just see the little bump from the film, but we'll see it better after we level it. I've chosen to put the 2 cursors on the glass because I believe the glass is level. Though you can see here the glass isn't very flat. This is pretty typical for glass slides. They're really not very flat, and this glass slide isn't very clean either. So all of those little bumps and specks are probably either scratches or digs or dust and debris on the glass slide. I'm going to change the units to angstroms. And so we can see, listen, I'm trying to level the data so we can see how high the step is. But we get an estimate here of about 55 nanometers or 550 angstroms. So that's about right. It's a reasonable level of for the metal film that we created. Scan things down to about 10 nanometers, but it's really limited by the smoothness of the film that you're starting with. If you have a very rough film, you're not going to be able to scan and see a very small step height. We're finished scanning now, so let's get the tip up out of there so that we can unload our samples. This section of the video has been sped up a little bit. It's important to bring the stage to the front of the machine. This makes it easier for unloading and loading and makes it less likely for us to bump into the tip while we're pulling those pieces out. With samples unloaded and the stage at the front of the machine, we can close the software, shut down the PC, and turn off the scan unit using that power switch in the back right corner.